Almost heaven, Foxborough. Gotta love this. A.J. Brown. Welcome to the Kevin and Mac Sports Hour here on News Talk 99.7, 630. I'm sorry, 99.7 FM, AM 630, WPRO, 790 AM. Of course, the score. A.J. Brown made it to Foxborough today, and wow, he should run for General Assembly or something. Rooch, what is it up in Massachusetts? It's not the General Assembly. What is it? It's,
Well, we got state representatives.
State rep.
He could be a state rep.
He's a state rep. I mean, Foxborough is almost heaven. I've heard a lot of things come out of Foxborough, come out of Patriots land for the last 40 years. No one's ever called it almost heaven. Wow. Jeez, gotta love it. The A.J. Brown deal is done. The Patriots excited to welcome in their newest prize today. He arrived before 8 o'clock and sent out an email before 8 o'clock. He'll be available to the media. Sure enough, he was available to the media. He was congenial. He was happy. And he's thrilled to be in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Gotta love it. I don't think I've ever heard this before. And, happiness goes a long way because maybe, just maybe, a guy like A.J. Brown, who turns 29 this month, maybe he needs this to be a fresh start he doesn't really need a fresh start. He's been really good, but to rejuvenate himself. Because his talent and his game, he's been very productive. I'd like exactly what he gave the Philadelphia Eagles for the last 2 or 3 seasons to translate to the Patriots for the next 2 or 3 seasons. That would be a complete home run. That would justify giving up the first-round pick in 2028. Totally justify it. Now, there's, of course, some red flags with any player, and we'll get to those in a little bit. But I was caught off guard today, for sure, by the reception. Not the reception that A.J. Brown received. It was more, he sounded like a rookie. All wide-eyed, bushy-tailed to be in Foxborough. I've seen some videos in the last 24 hours of A.J. Brown, literally while he's a member of the Philadelphia Eagles, in his man cave at his house, and he has a New England Patriots rug. He's been a Patriot fan for years. Think I heard that he loved Randy Moss. Bingo. What budding receiver wouldn't love to watch Randy Moss and Tom Brady with the Patriots growing up in Mississippi? And wanted to be drafted by the Patriots when he came out of Ole Miss. Instead, he lasted till the second round. The Patriots picked instead? This is just classic stuff. They wanted a receiver. I haven't heard any, back history of whether they had A.J. Brown in for a visit or looked closely at A.J. Brown, but instead they went with that outstanding receiver, N'Keal Harry. Thanks, Bill. Instead, he goes in the second round to Tennessee. Mike Vrabel's waiting for him, and hey, the guy's had a very good career, very productive career in Tennessee. And then, of course, when he went to the Eagles, he's on a Super Bowl team. What does he have left in his tank now? At age 29, with a young Drake May, with Josh McDaniels, with the other toys that Josh McDaniels is excited about putting in action here in the 2026 season. What do you think about the addition of A.J. Brown? 401-438-WPRO, 438-9776. A.J. Brown off the top tonight. Little NBA Finals, NHL Finals on the show as well. Let's get started with tonight's 3 big hits. All right, the Red Sox are back in action tonight at Fenway Park against the Orioles. Connolly Early gets the start. You'd think that would be good news, right? A homecoming for the Sox, but they're just 9-19 at Fenway Park this season. Stanley Cup Finals begin tonight. The red-hot Vegas Golden Knights are in Raleigh to take on the Hurricanes. Vegas has won 6 games in a row. Zach Werenski of the Blue Jackets won the Norris Trophy today as the league's top defenseman. The Knicks, they open the NBA Finals Wednesday at San Antonio. Backup center Mitchell Robinson is nursing a broken pinky finger, but is planning on playing tomorrow night in Game 1. And a long-rumored college hoop matchup has been confirmed. Providence Friars will face the Syracuse Orange for the first time since 2013. They'll play this season December 19th. It'll be up at TD Garden in Boston as part of a Hall of Fame series. I believe it's a doubleheader. The second half hasn't been announced. It's been long rumored that it's Boston College and UMass. Heck, I hope it's all by itself. I think Providence and Syracuse would sell an awful lot of tickets up there. Rooch will be in his orange shirt right behind GMAC. I'll be in between the two benches. How's that? Is that a good spot?
Yeah, I remember once when Syracuse played down in Providence, when they played all the time, people probably did see me on TV. It was one of those blackout games.
Right.
And I was sitting in the front row because I had great tickets with an orange shirt. Everyone's like, that's you on TV, isn't it? So, yeah, bring on the Syracuse-Providence rivalry.
Yeah, whether it was Rick Barnes or Pete Gillen or Tim Welsh, they were like so disgusted that all these orange people flooded into the Civic Center back in the days. Yeah, he wasn't happy about that,
he didn't
Coach
like
Gillen.
it.
Not at
like
all.
No.
Speaking of Coach Gillen, we got to give a shout out to Coach Gillen and to Coach Welsh, as a matter of fact, because they shared the pleasure of coaching John Linehan. And John Linehan caught up with him today. We're going to have a conversation with John on this show on Thursday. Why, you ask? He's going into the Providence College Athletic Hall of Fame on Friday night. And John's really excited to get back here to Providence. So, and, really happy that he joined us. And, again, shout-outs to both Coach Gillen and Coach Welsh. John Linehan, huge fan of both. Okay, enough about that. Rooch, I thought this guy was a disruptor, A.J. Brown, difficult in the locker room. It sounds today like the opposite. Fresh start, totally pumped up to be in almost heaven up there in Foxborough.
Yeah, I think this, though, to that end, I think this is the type of disruptor he is, right? Like, I think we saw this play out in Philadelphia. Part of his idea of being a disruptor, if people recall, was reading a book on the sidelines, right? So, there are different kinds of disruptors. There are guys who will run and shout and scream, and then he's more of a passive-aggressive disruptor, but it certainly did seem as though A.J. Brown, I'm with you, his reaction was very much that of a rookie, where he seemed, at least a little bit, and he admitted as much, overwhelmed by the situation. And I guess part of that, as you covered, was because he was a Patriots fan growing up. I mean, I'm trying to still figure out how I feel about that. Where's he from? Mississippi?
Yeah. How many Patriots fans? And I know they won a lot of Super Bowls.
Well, that was,
But really? I mean,
well,
really?
There's no team. He's got no team. So he can pick. And if you're a 10-year-old,
you go for the winner.
In 2007, when Randy Moss and the Patriots, I could see how he, as someone myself who rooted for the Chicago Cubs because and the Atlanta Braves merely because they were on TV, I could totally see how A.J. Brown would have fallen into that situation. But the diehard nature of it is a little odd, I got to say, at this point in his career.
All right, so a couple red flags here. First is age 29. Rooch, we covered this about 2 weeks ago. Not many receivers get into their low 30s without a drop.
Well, and it's the big body guys mostly that people focus on, and that's why I gave comps like an Andre Johnson. You can be all world, and it's losing that half a step. Like, look, we saw it with Kyle Duggar from the defensive side.
Yeah, good point.
You can just lose half a step, and whoop, at least the part of the game that you were able to excel at sort of just like whips right on by you. So that's what people are looking for, not immediately with A.J. Brown, but even just a little bit of a drop in speed could really kill him due to, the fact that he's not all that fast to begin with. He uses his physicality to really win people over. But if he slows down even just a little bit, that could be trouble.
Any chance that he can become more of a, inside the hash marks, guy, an over-the-middle, tougher guy? I wouldn't say, a tight end type, but more of that look than, performing along the sidelines. I could see that from this guy because you're right. You see him, and he's thick. He's really thick. They list him at 225. That sounds about right. But Rooch, the couple again red flags. Yards after catch. Not that it's a defining stat in the NFL. I just go to the yak of last year. Okay, Bijan Robinson, young, great player. Running back makes sense. Yards after the catch. Okay, he catches the ball well out of the backfield. You look at some of the better.
And he was number one, you're saying?
He was one. McCaffrey was two. So it's always running backs. But then Puka Nakua, Jamar Chase, the top. So I'm like, okay, that's the top 10. That's the top 20. That's the top 50. A.J. Brown came in at, where was he? He was number 70. That's not exactly a guy who's going to run away from the defense. And, again, that hasn't been his reputation,
right.
But I'd like to see a little higher than 70 in yards after catch.
I don't know if you're going to get that because of, his knee issues. Again, whether his knee is repaired and healthy, still, he didn't have that type of explosiveness even at his peak.
Mm-hmm.
He's more go up and get that tough ball. So, some guys can catch it at 9 yards out and take it another 5. Just throw it to him at 14.
Okay.
And he'll be able to jump up and get it. So when I talked about Randy Moss as the comparison the other day, it wasn't so much, taking the top off the defense by blowing by guys. He's not going to do that, but he can be double teamed back there, and you can get it up to him, and he's going to come down with the ball more often than not. And that's really where the weaponry lies. And to the over the middle part, like I see where you're coming from too with the thickness of this guy. I don't know. I think he's a tweener in terms of height for going over the middle. He's only 6'1", and I say only because most tight ends who you ask that of are 6'4", 6'5". And, the smaller Edelmans of the world are, again, much smaller. But it will be interesting to see how Josh McDaniels plans to use him, especially when McDaniels today compared at least Brown's physicality to Gronk. So, To your point, I'm not sure what old Josh has in store.
All right, Mike Vrabel, what does he still see in A.J. Brown?
Knowing A.J., in your eyes, what makes him such a special wide receiver?
Well, I think he loves football. I think that he has a physical skill set. I think he's got great body control. I think he's strong at the catch point. But I also think as he's grown as a player and as a receiver, just the nuances of releases versus press or playing versus bracketed coverages or zone coverages, plays physical with the football, and again has been productive and a consistent player.
There you go. He knows the coverages. He knows how to duck in. He knows how to get out. All that good stuff. That's what he did for Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. Now in Philadelphia, eventually he came to, I saw an interview today with Maria Taylor where he said, Jalen Hurts is still my friend, but it's not the same relationship that we had at when I began my tenure in Philadelphia. As far as Drake May, well, here's his initial reaction to the Patriots quarterback.
What excites you about playing with Drake?
Everything, man. I was watching him today. Obviously, I'm learning the plays and, out there with him. He can make any throw. He's very poised. Like, he kind of took over to me. Josh was speaking, and he, kind of cut Josh off, not in a rude way, but, he just kind of took over, and it says so much from a young guy, to know what he's talking about, number one, and to lead, and to be the voice of this team. So, when I heard that, I was like, wow. That was impressive. Obviously I heard great things about him, but that part alone tells me a lot about him and how much he loves his job.
All right, I think we'll gradually hear some comparisons, maybe from A.J. Brown, of Jalen Hurts and Drake May and their leadership style, their playing style. All I know is Jalen Hurts is extremely quiet. He's a quiet individual. Drake May's the flip side, Rucha, and maybe this guy responds to him.
Yeah, that certainly could be, and it'll be interesting to see how Brown and May work things out here. It's important to note, again, A.J. Brown became a malcontent, quote-unquote, and needed out of Philadelphia, needed out of a situation with his, at the time, best friend, Jalen Hurts, all because he wasn't getting the ball enough. So, it's all sunshine and lollipops on day one up there at Patriot Place, but the second A.J. Brown's not getting the ball and whipping out a book on the sidelines, that's how we'll find out the type of relationship he's got with Drake May, if we see stuff like that at all.
All right, that's it for the sunshine and the lollipops. We have more concerns with this move and what's up with A.J. Brown's knees. Next on the KevinMc Sports Hour. I understand. If there's been some talk around the NFL about again a budding 29-year-old's knees, that's a red flag. The fact that it was an issue in 2021, and one of the reasons Tennessee shifted him to the Eagles. Well, yeah, the Eagles made Tennessee made a horrendous decision. 1,500 yards, 1,400 yards, 1,080 yards, and last year 1,003 yards. There's no way that in 2021 they said, well, let's get rid of this guy because we can't extend him on. That would be his third contract, really, which he's now on. I get what Albert Breer is saying, that there's been some talk around the NFL for a while about this guy's knees, but until these guys drop off, it's just a prediction game. And obviously, I'm sure the Patriots, as well as the other teams around the NFL who are interested in this guy, looked at his medicals and he passed. I don't know. Is this Chicken Little a little bit here, Rooch? I don't know.
Yeah, well, this is Albert Breer conveniently or inconveniently forgetting a very important element of the A.J. Brown trade out of Tennessee, and that's why, all of this looks funny. Like you said, it's like, oh, they were worried about his knee back then, and okay, like that seemed...
4 years of great production.
Seemed to work out okay for the Philadelphia Eagles. Right, well, we've talked about this situation with Mike Vrabel in Tennessee before. It was basically one of those... The GM and the people in management were trying to make him unhappy.
Right.
Okay. And
they
AJ,
disagreed on this player.
Exactly. Yeah. They disagreed on this guy. So I'm sure Albert Breer's sources in Tennessee told him then and are telling him now that A.J. Brown's knee was no good. Again, the guy's been incredibly durable. There should be concerns about his knee, but not to the extent that, you straight up don't go out and get the guy. Should it maybe, give you pause for the type of compensation you give? Yeah, and I think that was more or less reflected in this deal.
All right, NFL insider Doc Kleeman, he's heard a few things about AJ's knee as well. Here's Doc.
The Rams, they were involved in trade negotiations with the Eagles, and reportedly, and from what I understand, I've confirmed that as well, that they had gotten the medicals. They weren't satisfied with what they saw, and that was sort of why they backed out. So that explains why, AJ's value on the market, partly I think explains why his value wasn't what you might have thought it would be. I asked Howie Roseman this question specifically about the knee, and he said, no, he's been a durable player for us, and, he kind of fought back against that notion.
All right, that's Dove Kleeman acting. He's been talking to doctors about A.J. Brown and his knee. So I like that insight a little bit more, Rooch, that Howie Roseman from the Eagles, if you put him on the truth-o-meter right now, and you said, well, why did you trade A.J. Brown? Well, number one would be off the field or locker room issues with his teammates. I think that's pretty well sourced. Number two could be his age. I get that. Age / I could get a first-round draft pick. I like my return. Number three, maybe the health of the guy. I don't think health of the guy is number one.
No, but I mean, that report right there really should frighten Patriots fans, if for no other reason that the two smartest shops in the NFL are probably feeding you a load of nonsense right there, or at least one of them is in Philadelphia, and the other one in the Rams. That's bad news if that's true. Because they're really smart, and they really like to give up first-round picks for players. So they wouldn't have balked at a price like that for Brown. So that's bad news.
I'm going to interrupt there.
Yeah.
I'm with you on the Rams. They do a great job. Favorites for the Super Bowl for a reason. They have Puka, Nacua, and Devontae Adams. They weren't in the market for A.J. Brown. I don't believe that at all.
I believe it 100%. Puka Nacua, they're not going to re-sign, so they could certainly use A.J. Brown. And their defense was top 5 in the NFL last year. They did not need Myles Garrett. In terms of Philadelphia and Howie Roseman saying that A.J. Brown was durable, that wasn't before today that he got that quote. So I'd like to hear what Howie Roseman has to say about A.J. Brown's future durability today. Facts are facts. He played a lot of games for Philadelphia and was very productive for them. I would never expect Howie Roseman, true or not, to give away what he thinks the condition of A.J. Brown's knee is. But, yeah, I do believe that the Rams were interested.
Okay. All right.
And it worries me that, like, I've already laid forth that the Eagles didn't want A.J. Brown anymore because I think they're smart. And if the Rams passed on him, I don't think that's a great sign either.
All right. That's 2 versus 0 right there, right? Two
Yeah.
two power teams, power franchises that no football, no players.
But to your
But
point
after
about the Rams,
Yeah.
they're in a different position, right?
They
So
are. And for this year, I mean, Nakua's coming back.
Right.
They're in position offensively to be a very, very good team. I think the whole NFL was a bit surprised that they paid as much as they did for Garrett.
And I think that's where that's where I can believe this is maybe they were intending to sort of go small relative to the deal they pulled off for Garrett. They didn't like the price for A.J. Brown. And then they were like, whatever, screw this. We're just going to go for it. We don't need these picks anyway. If we don't win the Super Bowl in the next year or two, we're all going to be fired.
Also heard a lot today that, the Patriots got a good price. They paid a good price to get A.J. Brown from other teams around the league. It's like, we thought he would have, commanded a higher price than that. I guess only time will tell, right? The guy needs to stay healthy.
Yeah.
He needs to stay on the field for more than 1 year. I said it last night. You give me 2,000-yard seasons from A.J. Brown, I think that's worth a number one pick. That'll get you to 2028 and, maybe a lot deep in the two deep playoff runs, which is really what it's all about for this team coming off a Super Bowl.
Absolutely. And I have seen Howie Roseman comment just in general since the deal went through. He was asked by Philadelphia reporters about the draft pick compensation, and he wasn't doing victory laps, so that's a good sign. And basically, to your point about the compensation, most people view this as as a second-round pick and a fifth-round pick because NFL GMs and teams, they view first-round picks a year down the road like that, the 28 first-round pick the Patriots gave up, they view that as a second-round pick in terms of equity. So a second and a fifth for A.J. Brown, I would think that most people were a little surprised that that's all it took.